The FNAF 4 box has been one of the greatest mysteries in the entire FNAF franchise, right alongside the infamous Midnight Motorist minigame. What's crazy is we got information on both of them over the 10th anniversary week, with Midnight Motorist getting an entire track dedicated to it in the demo of the FNAF Kart Racer, and Scott himself speaking about the box in the second interview with Dawko. Scott's answer to the question of what's in the box was very interesting for several reasons, and the implications it has on the lore and the storytelling of the franchise as a whole is enormous. The box was first seen in FNAF 4, locked and unable to be opened, and accompanied by the text, "Some things are better left forgotten, for now." Obviously, ever since this point forward, it became a compelling mystery for fans to solve. The thoughts and theories have had a rather interesting journey over the years. Generally, back then, and even in part today, it has been considered to hold the answers to the story of the FNAF series, or at the very least, the answers to FNAF 4 and maybe even the prior games. Some have gone for a very metaphorical angle of the box containing the pieces put together, with there not necessarily being something tangible within it, but rather the entire concept serving as a representation of what the story would be should everything be fully solved. Many theorists have also tried to provide answers for what objects could literally be inside the box, and how if the supposed contents were to be confirmed or revealed, how they would aid in solving the storyline of this vastly confusing franchise. Some suggestions have included it being a toy chest full of the Crying Child's FNAF themed toys, most people tying this into the at the time controversial Dream Theory. Others have postulated that it contains the Crying Child's body, the dead boy being saved by William Afton in pursuit to put him back together as someone promised him during his death. There have been suggestions of the puppet being contained within, the theories trying to retroactively solve the pre-sister location lore by saying that the original soul possessing the puppet could have been the Crying Child himself. What got interesting is something Scott Cawthon said in his original interview with Dawko back in the day.
He did a video on that box, and he kind of said that he thinks the contents of the box changed over the years. And I bet nobody gave that a whole lot of thought, but I saw that and I was like, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The contents of that box have changed over the years because, it's for that very reason. It's because, of what I was intending the game to be when it happened, and then after the reaction of it, I was like, I need to craft this into something better.
This makes it obvious that the contents of the box have changed, at the very least evolved from what Scott had originally intended it to be when he included it in the game for the first time. This puts the FNAF lore in a sort of nebulous zone, where it is liable to shift and change completely based on new information that comes in as the years go along. There can be whole separate theories and evidence-based interpretations of several different iterations of the lore, solving what is meant to be at any given time when a piece of media came out versus what is supposed to be in the current day, and Scott saying that the contents of the box have changed over the years is a perfect example of that concept. As said earlier, due to the nature of the box and the nebulous territory it sits in, there are many different possible or viable interpretations that have come to be in the theorizer space. The box was brought up again in the second interview with Dawko that Scott did very recently, where he responds to the very direct question of what's in the box by saying,
I can try to give somewhat of an answer to that, even though it might not be extremely satisfying for a lot of people. So I would encourage people to turn off the interview if they don't want an answer that they might not be happy with. But whenever I'm making these games, there are a lot of things that are in my head that are just flowing ideas, and when I have them and put them there, it's the first half of something. It's like a string or a rope just like reaching out, and I know that what's there on the other end is there. I trust that it's there. I know that it's there. And then whenever I progress forward, the rest of that just reappears. The rest of it appears and just fits into place perfectly. That's how all my games have been made. I feel that there is something there, and I make the roads to get there for that to be revealed. But then sometimes when things do progress, the roads aren't always the same roads as the ones that had been planned before. And so what that means is, even though at the time something was definitely there, something was definitely reaching out to be there, and I could feel that it was there. The progression of the story didn't go there, and so those strings never got pulled on, and those and the other half of that idea remained in the ether, remained in my subconscious. All of that to say, there is something in the box, but I never pursued it, and I don't know if I can find it again. And I think that that's the best answer that I can possibly give for that.
While some people joked about Scott forgetting what was in the box after this, that's not really what he was implying. What this answer says is that whatever the plan was when the box was created has shifted and changed as the series progressed, with the story going down a different road than the road that the box was initially building. This can be related to one of my favorite concepts involving the consumption of art called death of the author. Simply put, death of the author places less importance on the writer's or creator's intention with a piece of art or media, and more significance on the interpretation of the consumer. When dealing with lore and storyline theorizing, this can most relate to making connections that are highly likely to be unintentional by the writers, but seem likely for the fictional universe in question given the evidence present within what's observable about that world. It adds a new layer to consuming storylines in that it allows you to view the fictional world as a living, breathing universe, separate from the human writers and creators behind it, giving validity to any evidence-backed theory pertaining to it, regardless of whether or not it was the author's intention. The FNAF 4 box, especially in light of what Scott has said about it, is basically exactly what this concept is talking about. Except, this time, the writer himself has lost sight of what is really hidden within the world he's created. What this means is not that there is nothing in the box. Just as Scott said, there is still something in there, even if he doesn't know what exactly that is anymore. It is still up to us to connect the dots, theorize, and come to our own conclusions and interpretations as to what is inside and how it affects the grander story. So to answer the question, what's in the box? It is up for you to decide and discover something that Scott himself might not even know about the lore.